one of the things that I was thinking is we covered like how to hack your own mind. And then it's a small jump to say, okay, here's how an artificial intelligence will hack your mind if you're not taking control of it. And this will be an amazing, cool little talent for anybody who's listening to be able to hack their own mind, because you can literally take the variables that create who you are in your mind, adjust them, and then take control of your whole emotional landscape, which is awesome. And then you'll understand when you're starting to take control of those things, how somebody else, like news media or an external source of information or an artificial intelligence, will try to do the same thing. And you'll be able to identify when somebody's trying to influence you or control you, which is kind of cool, give you a lot of freedom. But that story starts with back to the limbic system. Like, it's your defense mechanism. It's always scanning your environment for threats, right? And so that's the portion of your brain that is like your survival structure. It says, is this person a threat? Is this car coming towards me a threat? Am I in this line? Is this animal a threat? But then a second question must be asked, a threat to what? And so that becomes the answer that the mind needs. Like, it needs a laundry list. It's just a logic device, right? Our brain is just a logic device of our central nervous system. And it needs a laundry list to define what it is that we need to defend. Like, if we're given a mission to say, defend this. Okay, well, what is this, right? And so that laundry list of stuff becomes our sense of self. And it's hardwired in that our body is right in the center of this map. It's called a self map, which is a kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? A concept that was brought forth by Antonio Damasio, who's a very famous researcher who did a lot of work on self and the understanding of human psychology and why we do the things that we do. And so this self thing, our body's right in the center of it. So when we have a baseball flying at our heads, that's why we dodge out of the way. Subconsciously, we don't even have control. It just happens. Or like when a fly comes flying near our eye, we blink. That's our limbic system controlling the motion of our body to defend our sense of self, which our body's right in the middle of it. So when we have that adrenaline dump of, seeing that wild animal or whatever it is, that's the body being right in the middle of our sense of self map. Now, just a couple of decades ago, they thought that was it. Our body was our sense of self, and that's what our brain is looking to defend. But then a really cool researcher, I've met him, I've interviewed him. His name is Jim Cohn at University of Virginia. He did a study that showed people can actually be mapped to our sense of self, people around us. And he did it through fMRI study to prove that, brains work the way they do and that this is a real thing. He put some folks through an fMRI and he said, okay.
What is an fMRI?
fMRI is an MRI machine that scans every cell of your brain, but then it also, through an extra function, looks at the blood flow and the energy flow within the mind itself in real time. So it basically shows you what's going on with the different sections of the brain. So you can look on a monitor and it comes red and blue and different energy sensations and different blood flow tell you what portions of the brain are doing what in any moment that you're looking at it. So he put a group of folks through this study and he said, okay, I'm going to give you a pair of glasses. There's going to be a LED in there. It's going to give you a flash of light. And then we're going to watch your brain for a few seconds. And then we're going to zap the shit out of you on your ankle.
Okay.
So, and it hurt a little bit. I mean, it didn't do any harm, but it was like, whoa, you jump.
You did this?
No, I've had it done before, but wasn't part of that study. But it hurts. It's like a dog zap collar. It's like the same type of thing, but they put it on your ankle. So they give you the flash of light. And they watched the brain, and what they were expecting is what they got, which was the fear center in the brain lit up and the correlates in the brain that create our self map, our sense of self, because our body's right in the center of it. And it's like, okay, there's a threat to the body. So fear came out and the sense of self came out and they saw it in the scan. It's exactly what they expected. The second run, they brought a stranger into the room, put him on a gurney next to the subject in the fMRI machine and said, okay, we're going to give you the flash of light, but we're going to take the ankle zapper off of you and put it on the stranger. And then we're going to watch your brain, and then we're going to zap the other guy. And I'm like, I'm selling cable rights at this point, right? I set up a popcorn machine. Let's have fun with this thing.
So hold on. One guy gets the flashlight.
Yep.
The other guy gets the zap.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are they wanting to happen?
So what they expect to happen is because their body is no longer in threat, because you're zapping somebody else, they're not going to see fear, and they're not going to see the sense of self correlates. right? In the brain. And that's exactly what they got, exactly what they expected. But what they didn't expect to happen and what changed the world of understanding of sense of self was what happened on the third run, where they brought in what's called a familiar, which was somebody that you love or somebody that's part of your life, significant other, coworker, child, parent, friend, somebody that means something to you. And they put them on the gurney next to you as you're in the fMRI machine, give you the flash of light, watch your brain, but then they zap somebody that you love. And the thing that surprised them was that they couldn't tell the first scans and the third scans apart.
Really?
Yeah. So the people that we love and the people in our lives get mapped onto our sense of self and use that same simple defensive self programming that our brain uses to defend against the snake or the bear or whatever. That's why we can now be concerned about losing our job or be concerned about our friend telling us they're about to lose their job. Or we're concerned about grandma's cold turning into a bad flu or whatever. Like we have feelings for the people around us that we love. This is exactly how the brain does it.
Every time you experience a strong emotion, such as anger, jealousy, all these things, would you say that, I feel like that's your mind being hacked?
Yeah,
You're
to a
being
point.
influenced.
Human emotions are the primary driving mechanism for us to take action. From a certain standpoint, you can break down the physiology and the process within your mind and lay it all out on a piece of paper, and you can actually draw it, and you can draw the custom variables that make you an individual compared to all the other 800 billion people on the planet. But there's a process that is static within the physiology of a human that takes that custom information but runs it through the same exact process that everybody else uses. Now, if you start to identify what things are on this self map, we'll talk about it, but what those things are for an individual, then the other side of the equation is your perception and appraisal of what's going on in your mind and what you think about it, how you feel about it, et cetera. But that results in your emotional output. And so if you can put perceptions, false or otherwise or targeted, into a person's perception where you know what they care about and how they're going to react to things, you can put information in there that results in an emotional reaction that will drive them into action potentially at a particular time window, to a particular location, with a particular emotional mix, and all of a sudden you're communicating and controlling human beings either individually or en masse based on, like, they could send information to you to get you to a certain location. They could send me different information that's pertinent to me that'll get me to the same location. Then all of a sudden you got a drone strike or you're being arrested or whatever it is. And it used custom information based on you and I are as individuals, but it got us to the same location or to the same action or the same end result, right? Like we're selling a stock or buying a stock or, liquidating all of our funds or, going to a certain location or taking a certain action. That's what we're talking about here, is the ability to influence people on a scale of up to, the number of cell phones on the planet where you can literally deliver information to a person's pocket in their face at a granularity of understanding what each individual needs to see, hear, feel to get them to take the action that you want them to take on an automated basis, 24/7, 365, no need for lunch breaks and no need for pay. There's a hardwired hack in your mind that helps you control it for you. The easiest way to explain this is like when you go, your brain is your organ of survival, okay? So it's there to help you figure out what's a danger and what's not, okay? So when you walk by a coil on the ground, there's this thing called your limbic system and specifically your amygdala that'll look down, glance out of the corner of your eye and say, oh my God, that's a snake, right? And so the fear kicks in to your amygdala and it starts dumping adrenaline into your system to prepare for fight or flight to get you away from the threat, okay? So at the moment that you look down and you see that coil on the ground is not a snake, but it's a hose, your brain as your organ of survival has to have a way to turn off your negative shit immediately, because the adrenaline dump and all the stuff that's happened a moment ago to prolong your survival is now going to limit your survival by wasting those resources that you would need to run away from a hose, which you don't, right? But you may need those resources 100 yards down the line when a bear walks out of the woods in front of you and you need that adrenaline, right? So there needs to be a way for your thinking mind to turn off your negative reaction to that snake now hose. And so there's a specific circuit, and we don't have to go deep in the weeds of neuroscience, but there's a specific circuit in the right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex and the medial prefrontal cortex that literally sends a signal back to your limbic system, says, shut the fear off. We don't need it anymore. Stop the adrenaline dump, and it reacts immediately and turns off the negative reactivity that your mind has going on at the moment because you don't need that fear. There's a way to hack that system.
This happens subconsciously.
Yeah, subconsciously. It's helping. Your brain is there to help you, right? Your brain is there to do what you need it to do to help your survival. And that's why, it'll change in form and function, like you learn how to shoot a basketball and all of a sudden it becomes muscle memory. It's not really muscle memory. That's your brain saying, I'm going to take this over for a subconscious process to say, we're always going to hit that three, right? You learn how to play piano. All of a sudden it becomes automatic where you just start the song and now you're just listening to it as your body's playing the notes. Right, you do crossword puzzles. Your brain, your subconscious mind works those things quicker, starts to aligning this thought process to say, oh, I've seen that clue before. And you're filling out your crossword puzzle faster based on what intention that you've set for it. Well, over time, when you start managing your emotions, it'll start doing the same thing. And so if you're like a mess psychologically in life and you start to take control of your emotional landscape, over time, your mind makes you that Zen master walking around, observing the world exploding around him and not really reacting to it unless there's something directly that needs to be done. That's a cool kind of place to be where, life could be going to hell in a handbasket and yet you're calm and controlled and can make intelligent decisions based on the information that you have ahead of you. We're really dumb as human beings. We totally overestimate our intelligence level compared to what there is to know. But when you dip into that space of expanded consciousness, you're dipping into like a non-local awareness that transcends, just like quantum mechanics does, transcends space and time. Like quantum mechanics is showing us that in that realm that creates space and time, it is beyond the effects of space and time. Like, you can have backwards in time reactions in quantum mechanic experiments. Like, nobody understands quantum mechanics, so I don't want to profess that I understand what's going on. But there are experiments that show that we can have reactivity backwards in time based on stuff that happens in the future. And they've proven this over and over and over, and 100% of the experiments show that this is the way it works. Well, I think that there's also a non-local component to consciousness that does the same thing. That when you're in that pure conscious awareness space, you're beyond the space and time influence. And so you can experience things off into the distance in this consciousness expansion space, get a ton of information that you wouldn't have time to experience in the hour-long meditation or however long you were gone. And then you come back and you've got all of this experience and all of this understanding that would have taken lifetimes to learn. There's this thing called a hedonic treadmill and it's a part of the the part of the nervous system, not the immune system, but the nervous system where like your nervous system reports the differences in things. Like you smell a scent for the first 10 minutes and then all of a sudden you don't smell it anymore because let's say you wake up in the middle of the night and the gas is on and you smell it. Well, it woke you up because it went from low to high. And it alerted you and said, okay, there's a big difference in the gas smell. But then after 10 minutes, it goes from high to high, and it stops reporting on the difference of things, right? And you got to get out of the house. That's why the firemen say, get out of the house if you smell gas because you won't smell it for very long, but it'll kill you. Because your nervous system only measures the differences in things. And so in reality, what that does to our life is when we start making financial accumulation and the brand new car is really cool for the first few months that you're driving it, and then all of a sudden it gets to be old hat. That's your nervous system normalizing to the things that you've attained already in life. And then you start looking for what's the difference? How can I get more? And that never stops. And that's why these billionaires are always looking to pile more money on top, more success, more businesses, more accolades, right? Oh, I'm not the richest man in the world yet. Let's do that, right? Mm-hmm. And they're chasing because the nervous system always normalizes to what you have.